Good evening. Thank you everyone here for joining us, and welcome to our friends on Facebook Live. My name is Amy Powell. I'm the Executive Director here at Outreach, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to our Judges Roundtable event. We have Leslie Donaldson and Joey Quinones. Did I get it right? Quinones. I was so close. It's all those years of Spanish, like 30 years ago. So we want to first give a huge thank you to Leslie and Joey for spending the last 2 days with us and with some of you who have been here for an artist critique earlier today. Leslie is working for the Kalamazoo Art Institute and was formerly at the other CMU, Carnegie Mellon University. We were joking about that last night. She is the director there at the Kalamazoo Institute for Arts, and Joey is with Cranbrook. They have a Master's in Fine Arts program, which I just learned about, and is the person who directs all of the MFA students there at the Cranbrook program. We're so grateful for everything that they have brought to Art Walk Central. So what we're going to do here tonight is go through their top artists in alphabetical order. And what we will do is post this on Facebook after everything is done. If you are interested in how the People's Choice voting is coming along, we put some information out there earlier today about the top People's Choice. That's in alphabetical order too, so we're not giving away anything until August 20th, but on August 20th at 3 o'clock we will have a Facebook Live, and during that Facebook Live we will be announcing all of the winners in the judges category as well as in the People's Choice category. We'll be doing that here at Outreach, so if you'd like to come, you're welcome to come, or you can just find us on Facebook and watch from Facebook. So at this point, I'm going to turn the tables over to Leslie and Joey. They're going to go through the artists, and then when everything is done, they will be happy to field any questions that there are. And Jeff is doing a Facebook Live, so the Facebook Live folks, if you have questions, feel free to put those in the comments, and we'll be monitoring those as the evening goes on as well. Thank you.
Well, if it's okay, I just want to thank you all so much for having us, and just really excited to be here. It was a really enjoyable day yesterday, going around to all the different venues and seeing all the great work, not only in this community, but I know that this is a much broader exhibition with a number of different pieces, and the talent is pretty incredible. So we had a very full day yesterday looking at all the works, and it was great fun. And then today, my experience in meeting with a number of different artists was really lovely, and I hope I have a chance to keep in touch with some of the folks that I had a chance to talk to today. So, so again, I just want to thank you all. Thank you to Outreach for inviting me to participate.
Likewise.
All right, so.
In alphabetical order.
Youth in alphabetical order.
Yeah. So, do you want me to start?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, Emily Evans was one of the pieces that we selected. I think some of the reasons why we were sort of drawn to this particular piece is the attention to a theme, the way that they're placing color and the composition. So there's really interesting moments of kind of like where the bright yellow carries your eye all around sort of the composition. And so just the attention to detail, the attention to color, that's sort of the reason is why we were drawn to this piece.
Yeah, yes, I echo all of that, and you know, I really enjoyed seeing myself in this experience too. you know, just the exploration of a beautiful landscape and these sort of moments captured in time. And I love also the placement of the shadow right in the center below, just kind of thinking about what it's like when you have a journey in nature like this, and thinking of yourself as being a part of it. So it's a really, really well done, lovely overall composition. Well, Nora, I mean, what can you say? Super fun. I understand that she is a young budding artist, so really excited to support her and to talk about their work. And you know, butterflies, I mean, you know, great fun, but you can tell that great use of color, especially for somebody so young and emerging. And I like that there are 3 different compositions there to explore.
Yeah, and actually I think this is one of the things, sort of a good art tip. I always really encourage all of my students to try as often as they can to work in a series so that things don't become so precious or too tight. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy about younger artists. No problem, multiple butterflies, right? And different imaginings of the butterfly. And so I think this is some good instincts, right? Do the multiple, don't get too tight, be loose, play. As one of my advisors used to say all the time, I'm assuming you have 64 of these and you pick the best 3, right? So this is good instincts.
All right. Yeah, top teams.
Top teams.
Sure. So this is Natalie Malson's piece. And I think there were a few reasons why we were drawn to this one. I really like the mixed media approach. So there's sort of the collage in the background and then the painted sort of cowboy figure. And they were very specific about why they chose the cowboy and who this cowboy was in sort of terms of their narrative. One of the things that I would kind of point out is thinking about, for example, how every single element that is on this piece could be an opportunity for expanding upon that narrative. So like, you know, I spent a lot of time looking to see did the paper in the back have a connection to the figure, right? And so that's one of the things that I like to sort of really reiterate is every single element in the work can be an opportunity to further that narrative. So, but it was mixed media, the cowboy was easily recognizable, fully rendered, nice attention to detail.
And I would say too, just the expressive, loose nature of the bull is also really interesting to me, and it sort of fades in and out, you know, forward and backward, and really is a very interesting composition from that perspective. This one's fun, right? Who can't like be happy and joyful when you see this piece, Happy Little Trinkets by Zoe. And I think we really enjoyed this for its inventiveness. It just feels joyous. It is very thoughtful, particularly the use of the little trinkets to help think about assemblage in an interesting way. I think that there is further opportunity to make even deeper connections with who Bob Ross is. So happy little trees, the nature, things like that. And there are elements of nature, flowers, and other sort of more natural elements within those trinkets. But I think there's some further opportunities to explore that. I think beyond that, what I also enjoyed was, as a part of the display, there was the artist sort of challenged the viewer into how many of these pieces can you find, or what are you think, can you find Zoe in Bob Ross? So very fun piece.
Yeah, and I would kind of also add sort of that where's Waldo, or that puzzle, or I need to look for something. I think of that as a really good strategy to engage the viewer for longer. So I'm always really cognizant, like, most people are like, folks only look at a resume for 6 seconds, right? I don't even want to know how long people look at artwork for. But, so thinking about what are the particular strategies that you can employ to have your viewer want to spend more time with the work. And so, I spent time trying to find the Zoe, I spent time trying to count the 10 Legos, and so I think that was really fun. And so I applauded the use of strategies for engaging the viewer. And was it me?
Yeah, go. You go. Yeah.
And this is Adele's painting. There were a few things that really stood out, I think, for both of us. The figure in the middle, the dragon, there's a lot of attention to detail. And so I hope that everybody gets a chance to look at it up close. The person in the bookstore brought it down so I could take a closer look, which is very sweet of them. But there's constellations in the sky. There's fireflies. There's a lot of sort of detailing on the teeth. There's a lot of detailing on sort of the claws, the grass. You can see that contrast. You really get a sense that this very large sort of, it kind of reminded me of a cat, is sort of curled up and very cozy. And so for an imaginary creature to sort of convey that sense of being cozy and whimsical, those were some of the reasons why we picked this one.
Yeah, and I agree, and would also add to that, as an imaginative and fantastical creature, this idea that there's actually form there, and the weight or the shading of the legs and the body, and you get a sense that while it's fantastical and unique and interesting and fun, there is some weight to the creature as well, and really well-used composition also. I think this is a different piece than what we saw.
We saw a different one.
Yeah. So, however, from what I recall of this piece, the piece that we saw, it has 3 figures, 3 different, looks like friends. The expression of the friends was really quite engaging. The rendering was really really well done, and what I enjoyed about the piece, and you'll have to go see it because it's in For Art's Sake in the window. There are in the background, I recall, other smaller portraits that sort of reflect what is happening in of the 3 figures in the front. And so this piece, I apologize, I've not seen this one, but also
now I'm looking at this one.
Now, yes, really, really nicely done composition. So, I think Raina is on their way to, really explore further their talents. And you can see even in this one the use of color, really interesting, with the figure kind of popping forward there in the foreground.
Okay, so we picked this piece by Ted Evans. This is over at the University Art Gallery, and actually the show was very lovely, very nicely put together, and I really enjoyed having the didactic information with the title and the artist statement there as well. So this is actually placed when you first walked in, and it's a statement piece. I'm completely biased. I love three-dimensional work, so I always love to see it. And what I really enjoyed about this piece, and I was fortunate enough to have a chat with Ted earlier today, but what I really enjoyed about this piece was that the form, the color, the structure, the scale of it was enough to have me spend time looking at it very carefully. And then by the time I walked over to the cards, the title cards, it was like the cherry on the top, right? So it was like, oh, that's giving me a whole different sort of perspective, and yet I think emotionally I could understand what this piece was about. So this is traffic circles. And yeah, I was just talking with my son about how much I hate roundabouts. And so, you know, that feeling of sort of being encased in this circle that is just perpetual. And so I'm always looking for works that can be sort of literal but also metaphorical interpretations. And so even if I didn't know what the title was, I still get that like anxiety when you see a nesting doll and you open it and there's something else inside, and you open it and there's something else inside. And so this is working metaphorically as well as literally, and it's well crafted, it's well done. The color palette sort of reminds me of, it reminded me of like old rotary phones, just circles, right? And so there's a lot of associations. I like when work has me contemplating questions as opposed to giving me an answer. And so there was a lot of room here for me to sort of think about why this form, why this shape, why these circles, why are they embedded in each other. And I just also love that it's constructed in such a way that it stands on its own, which presentation is great.
I agree with everything that you're saying, and particularly the anxiety piece of it, because I wanted to pull it apart in my brain. You know, I wanted to know, okay, what's happening inside here? And, you know, with traffic circles, we have that anxiety for those of us who drive and experience that. And so, yeah, I wanted to look inside. I wanted to see what was going on there. I wanted to understand. And so, yes, I agree with everything that you said. Very, very well constructed and really interesting piece. So this Christy Richards piece, if you haven't seen it, is it's a series of 23 photographs with a couple of vitrines with some objects, some personal objects on either side of the photographs. And it tells the story, it captures the story using mostly shoes, some other additional objects and items of someone's journey from birth to death. And we all wear shoes, and so I could see myself in the experience of, you know, you have your baby shoes, you have those special shoes that you wear for particular occasions, you find those additional shoes that are, you know, maybe a fun find somewhere that you get really excited about. So it really tells an emotional journey. It's a really great use of storytelling through image, and it's very personal and very emotional. So again, I think we felt very, very moved by this. We had some long conversations about this piece actually, because for me, I was thinking, I was trying to understand a little bit more about the art items in the photographs, because of the majority of the pieces were shoes, and so I was trying to understand the particulars of what were those items. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think sort of the photographs are collages, and there's a particular attention to detail. So like, one of the details that I really enjoyed was seeing the shoes and the Goodwill tag at the $7.99, right? It's like little moments like that where You know, the saying is, you know, walk a mile in someone's shoes, but to really look at someone's shoes and be able to imagine what their world is like, right? And then you have the really fancy heels, and so you start imagining the life of this person. And I think that's actually kind of a difficult thing to do. In my first life, I was an English professor, and I always felt really bad because students in their first year always wanted to write that essay about their grandmother that died, and you were like, oh, right? It's kind of like the creative writing trope. You have to show me, don't tell me, right? And I think this is a good example of showing me the grief associated with this individual. And so, you know, if you start from the beginning and you see the little baby cap, like you recognize that as an item when someone's in the nursery, and you sort of kind of identify with all these key sort of moments, that by the time you get to the end, like, it is sort of moving to realize, well, this doesn't look right. This looks funerary. What is going on here? I really do appreciate that this was sort of arranged as an installation and given enough space. So there is something that when you come into that back area, it was very thoughtfully installed. And so, you know, never doubt how powerful installation and lighting can really be in terms of your pieces.
I think that's a really important point too with this piece, because it was in the space all by itself. And so I think it gave you that opportunity to really reflect more quietly in an emotional way. So you're totally right, you know, thinking about how something is installed in that way and what that can do for the viewer.
And there's all sorts of conversations that happen with pieces in a space. And so to not be surrounded or too close with other things did give us a lot of breathing room.
So we talked about it a long time again. Yeah.
Is this me or you? I can't remember who's next.
You go.
Okay. So I think we really enjoyed this piece, and a lot of it had to do with, so, you know, there's just certain things in art you kind of see over and over again. So, you know, the flowers and the plants and nature, right? And so I think it's always really hard when you have that sort of very familiar subject matter to present it in a way that makes you look at it differently. And I think that's one of the things that this piece did. And I think part of that is because of the process. And so what we were really interested in is that they were bleaching the paper out and then going back and adding graphite and colored pencil. And so it's not so much that this is a plant or these are leaves. It really makes me pay attention to the quality of the light. And so it's super quiet but lovely. And so I think anything that makes you look at the familiar in an unfamiliar way, I think that's a moving quality of it.
Yeah, it's really very technically beautiful, yet it's abstract at the same time, and it's got those amazing shapes that are abstract, and yet, you know, different scale that is happening to the smaller intricacy of the little parts of the leaves that are kind of eaten away, and then the shadow that's cast behind it is a larger, more abstract piece. And yet we can understand, or we can read this enough to know that they are leaves, or they come from leaves, or they come from the natural world, but it is really very abstracted. So I think that that's a really difficult thing to do, a combination of that intense technical draftsmanship quality, and yet it's very abstract.
And I think something about bleach as sort of being subtractive, and then adding, I really just enjoyed that it's bleach.
Ken, boy, we talked also a long time about this piece as well. So this submission is for paintings. It's actually here at Art Reach. And you know, my initial take on it was these very special moments that human touch or human connection has with a very important animal, in this case a horse. And you know, even though we just see very quick glimpses of the horse, these little flashes of moments here and there, we know that they're important connection moments. And you know, one thing that we did talk quite a bit about, having to do with, you know, thinking about installation, especially when you have multiples like this. What are the opportunities, and what are the ways that you can be thoughtful about editing? Editing is probably a very difficult thing as artists to think about. And the reason why I say that is because I feel a real strong connection to the painting that is up at the very top, the oblong painting. It is beautifully done. The hand rendering is gorgeous. I think the slide doesn't do it quite justice. I think if you get a chance to see it in person, you'll see what we're talking about. The color palette, the very small details of the flickers of the different paint. It's really lovely, and I almost feel like it could be strong just in itself, right? So there are things, and yeah, I enjoy all of the pieces, right? So I think that there are some opportunities to think and edit and to be thoughtful about that. But.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel sometimes when folks are starting out, it's kind of like if I give you all the things, and really, you know, I think I would have been just as captivated, just that top piece. You know, so developing that confidence that the one piece is conveying everything that you want. You know, I really enjoy the little sort of like spots on the hand, the veins. There's even sort of the detailing of the hair on the hand. So it's really close looking. That's really beautifully rendered. And I think too, in terms of like the installation, thinking about the space in between. So the way that they are currently installed right now, we spent a little bit of time saying, is it one whole thing, or is it 4 separate parts of the theme? Or so like really thinking about how you install things can definitely help you in terms of thinking about narrative. I think I also was partial to the eye, so if you do get a chance to look at it up close, you see the image of the person reflected in the horse's eye, and I think that's where it's kind of interesting to me, that it's horses and hands, but you have to look really carefully to see the outreached hand in that. So these were really lovely.
I think to that point too, you could also separate out the painting with the eye, because what's also interesting about the eye is obviously you can't see it here, but there's a figure in the eye, and then you actually see the background, like you see the sky. Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. So yeah, to me, I think, you know, you could see them as actually separate pieces.
Yeah, we did have a moment of going 4 entries.
Yeah.
They submit 4 things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm always a sucker for the paying close attention to the light source. And so, you know, not just that you see the figure, but you see that the light kind of coming in and reflected. That's like a real attention to detail. You know, so one of the hardest things in art making, especially in drawing and painting, is rendering what you see and not what you think you see. And so you kind of have to turn off a part of your brain to really look at the thing. So it's nice attention to detail.
Julie. I think we both agree this is a beautiful, beautiful piece. Also here at Art Reach, between the rendering and the hands and that detail, and then the colors, the stones. The stones are abstract, and yet we read them as stones. And this made me just feel like it's this time of year. It's summer. I'm at the beach. I'm playing. I'm picking up. I'm finding these finds. And when you see this piece in person, your eye just moves all around. In particular, allows you to stop occasionally and look at the different stones and the different treatment that has been made. It's just a really beautifully done composition, the color, all of those things. Again, I really enjoy the combination of something that is beautifully rendered and that attention to detail, and yet things that are abstract. Again, we read the stones as being stones, but they really are abstract shapes.
Yeah, and which is a hard thing.
Which is a hard thing
to do.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I really did enjoy about this piece is there's because of the way that the stones are so sort of realistically rendered, you have the perception and the feeling of weight. So I start thinking about collections and accumulations and the weights, and I think that's one of the ways that you can have sort of an allusion to symbolic meanings that sort of come. So what does it mean to have the weight of the rocks in these hands to accumulate or collect these rocks? And so then the rocks are something more than rocks, right? And so at the same time, while I can have these moments of a perceived weight, there's also this very strange quality where the rocks seem to be floating in space. And so, being able to be heavy and weightless, realistic and abstract. And I really like the treatment of the background. It doesn't feel empty, or it feels very purposeful. There's a lot of things that Julie could have done here. But really just focusing on two elements, the rocks and the hands, I think, is a smart move.
And seeing the piece in person, it's hard, you can't really see it here, but the masking of what Julie has done to elevate the hands and the rocks, there's a gloss. There's a gloss treatment that has been made, which sometimes makes your color a little bit darker, but it also helps define it and make it pop a little bit. So that was a really thoughtful approach to creating the piece. Again, it's something to see in person.
And I think just in terms of drawing the figure, the hands and the feet are always the hardest to render. And I think part of why it's so hard to render is that there's a lot of expressiveness in your hands. It's kind of like the same thing when you're drawing and you think your forehead is just this empty space, but this is where all the expression is, right? So hands are really difficult. Hands are very, very difficult. And I did have a chance to talk with Julie earlier.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and they very specifically had a hand model for their reference photos. So I think that it kind of shows in terms of starting off with really good reference photos and sometimes having to go out for the thing that you're looking for. And so a lot of the moments in here, very careful attention to detail and planning, and yet, like when you think about the rocks and you look at the composition, there's a responsiveness. So looking the placement and then where's the next one going to be, where's the next one's going to be. And it's hard to be in the middle of that, like plan, and yet go where the piece wants to go. So.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our formal presentation. At this point, are there questions? Are there any questions on Facebook that have come through yet? Okay.
Nope.
Are there any questions from folks here in the audience? I'm going to step out of the spotlight there. Think for a second. A speechless crowd. Honestly, this never happens. Okay. Did I give enough time? I'm like a teacher in another life, so I'm really comfortable with awkward silences. Okay, well, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you again to Leslie and Joey. It's been a great couple days getting to know both of you, and we really thank you for everything that you have done and all of the great insights and foresights and the evaluation that you've given to this. So thank you again. The rest of you stay tuned. August 20th will be our big announcement. Keep voting for People's Choice.
Yeah.